Elias Ward had never seen a storm like this before. The skies of Valira swirled in violent colors, deep purples clashing with flashes of electric green. Wind howled through the narrow canyons, lifting dust and strange crystal shards that glowed faintly in the light. His human instincts told him to stay away, to retreat to the safety of his ship. But something in the movement below caught his attention. Through the swirling debris, he saw a small figure struggling. It was a girl, her skin shimmering in a way he couldn't understand, like liquid silver under the storm light. She was trapped in a narrow canyon pinned by a pile of fallen rocks. Elias knew that if he did not act, she would die. He hesitated. A voice echoed in his mind, a warning from every holographic display on his wrist console. Intervention violates Elder Creed Law 7. Do not interfere with rites in progress. Failure to comply may result in galaxy-wide sanctions. Elias took a deep breath. The creed was clear. Humans were newcomers to this sector of space, observers, not participants. And yet, the girl's small, trembling hands reached toward him, and his heart would not allow him to ignore her. "Hold on," he muttered under his breath, and leapt over the jagged rocks, moving as fast as he could through the storm. Every step was dangerous. The canyon walls shifted unpredictably. A sudden gust knocked him sideways, but he grabbed a ledge and pulled himself upright. The girl's cries pierced through the howling wind. He could not fail. As he reached her, he could see her eyes wide with fear. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Help me." Elias didn't answer. He only nodded and began lifting the rocks that pinned her. They were heavier than they looked. Sparks flew from his gloves as his energy cutter hummed, carving through the stubborn stone. He worked quickly, knowing the storm would not wait. A piece of crystal dislodged and rolled toward them, and Elias barely managed to push the girl aside in time. She gasped and clutched his arm, her tiny fingers gripping tightly. Finally, he cleared the last obstacle. He lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, almost delicate. Her silver skin shimmered even more in the dim light, and her eyes, deep and bright like liquid stars, looked at him with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. I thought I would die." Elias smiled, though his heart was still racing. "You're safe now," he said. "I won't let anything happen to you." The storm raged around them, but they moved. Elias carried her to a safer ledge where the wind was less fierce and set her down carefully. She looked around, frightened but alive. You broke a law," she said softly, almost afraid to speak. "I did," Elias admitted. "But I couldn't leave you to die." She studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching. Then slowly, a small smile appeared. "I think you are different," she said. Elias didn't understand what she meant, but he didn't ask. There were more pressing concerns. The storm was moving faster than he expected, and he needed to get both of them to safety before the canyon shifted again. He looked at the strange technology around the canyon walls, ancient devices buried in stone, glowing faintly with energy. Valira was an old world, older than humans had ever imagined. Its secrets were guarded by the Elder Creed, a set of laws that had stood for millennia. One of these laws was clear. Outsiders could not intervene in the rights of Valira. Those who did risked punishment not only for themselves, but for their entire species. Elias knew that breaking this law would not be taken lightly. Reports of human violations had traveled faster than light, carried by the network of cosmic observers. Already, somewhere in the galaxy, alarms would be going off. Yet as he watched the girl take a tentative step forward, he felt no regret. Saving a life was more important than obeying a law made by beings who had never known fear, hunger, or pain. The girl, whose name was Lyra, walked beside him. She had regained some strength, but was still trembling from the storm and the terror of being trapped. Elias guided her toward a natural cave he had spotted earlier, a place where the winds would be blocked. Inside, the air was calmer, and they both could catch their breath. Elias took out a small device from his pack and activated it. A soft light filled the cave. It was a healing kit, designed for emergencies. Lyra watched curiously as he worked, placing sensors and energy patches on her arms and legs. Her silver skin absorbed the light, and the faint shimmer dimmed as her wounds began to close. "Humans are strange," she said finally. "You risk everything to save someone you do not even know." Elias shrugged, though he felt the weight of what he had done pressing on him. "We do what we must. Life is precious." Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the flickering light. "Life, yes, that is important. But the elders will not understand. They will be angry." Elias had expected that. The elders were the rulers of Valera, ancient beings who maintained balance through strict adherence to law. Their punishments could be severe, even for a human, and yet he could not stop himself from asking, "Why were you trapped in the first place?" She hesitated. "It was a right. My clan. They said it was necessary, but I did not want to be part of it. I think someone wanted me gone." Her voice trembled and her eyes filled with tears. "I never asked to die." Elias felt a surge of anger, not toward her, but toward the system that allowed such laws to exist. He clenched his fists. "Then someone will pay for this," he said. "We will find a way to make sure you are safe." They stayed in the cave as the storm outside continued to rage. Lyra spoke more about her world, about the clans and the rights that controlled every part of life. Elias listened carefully, absorbing every detail. He realized that the galaxy was far more complicated than he had imagined, filled with traditions, laws, and rivalries older than humanity itself. Hours passed. The storm finally began to ease. Light from a distant sun broke through the clouds, casting long beams across the canyon floor. Elias looked outside and saw that the terrain was treacherous, but passable. He knew they could not stay in the cave forever. The elders, if they were aware of his actions, would begin searching soon. He helped Lyra to her feet. Her steps were still unsteady, but determination shone in her eyes. "Where will we go?" she asked. "Somewhere safe," Elias replied. "We need to find a place where no one can reach us until we figure out what to do next." As they moved cautiously through the canyon, Elias kept his eyes on every detail. The ground beneath them was unstable. Every sound of shifting rock made them pause. But he noticed something strange. Glowing patterns etched into the canyon walls, faint lines of energy that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. They were ancient, probably older than any living memory on Valera. "These markings," Elias said, stopping to study them, "they are not just decoration. They might be some kind of warning or guide." Lyra nodded. "Yes, my people have known about them for centuries. They say the walls speak to those who listen. Only the pure of heart can follow the path safely." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Pure of heart? That sounds complicated." She smiled faintly. "It is. But you are different. You helped me when no law would have allowed it. That is purity of heart in my world." Elias felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had never thought of himself as a hero, but the words gave him hope. Perhaps humans, despite being newcomers, could inspire change in ways even the oldest civilizations had never imagined. As the sun climbed higher, they reached the mouth of the canyon. The storm was gone, leaving a clear sky above, dotted with two suns, one smaller than the other. Elias looked down at the path ahead. It would be dangerous, but with careful planning, they could reach a hidden valley where they would be safe from the immediate reach of the elders. He turned to Lyra. "We are not out of danger yet, but we will make it. I promise you that." She nodded, gripping his arm for support. "I trust you," she said softly. I think I have no choice but to trust you." Together they began the slow descent, carefully picking their way through the rocky terrain. Each step was a test, each movement a challenge. But Elias had never felt more alive. For the first time, he understood the meaning of courage, not as a concept, but as an act, a choice to protect life, no matter the cost. Hours turned into a day. They found a small outcrop with a natural shelter, a place where the wind could not reach and where they could rest. Elias set up a temporary shield, a thin energy barrier that could keep them safe for a while. As night fell, the stars above shone brilliantly. Lyra stared at them, awe in her eyes. "The universe is beautiful," she whispered. "I never noticed it before." Elias smiled. "It is. And it's full of surprises, some dangerous, some wonderful, but it is always worth exploring, always worth protecting." Lyra leaned against him, finally allowing herself to rest. Elias kept watch, knowing that soon the consequences of breaking the creed would catch up with him. But at that moment, all that mattered was the small life he had saved and the quiet hope that one human could make a difference, even in a galaxy ruled by ancient laws. And for Elias Ward, that was enough. The next morning, Elias woke to the soft light of Valira's twin suns spilling across the valley. Lyra was already awake, sitting quietly on a rock, her legs drawn close, staring at the distant horizon. The events of the previous day weighed heavily on both of them. Elias could feel the tension in the air, as though the world itself sensed the ripple caused by his actions. He knelt beside her, adjusting the small energy patch he had left on her arm. "You should eat something," he said. "You need strength for the journey ahead." She shook her head. "I cannot. I feel nervous. Something is coming. I can feel it." Elias frowned. He had felt it too. There was a distant vibration, almost imperceptible, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. He knew it could not be natural. Somewhere, far beyond the valley, the elders were awakening, sensing the violation of their ancient law. "You're right," he said finally. "We need to move carefully, but hiding forever won't work either. They will come looking, and when they do, we must be ready." Lyra looked at him, fear in her eyes, but also determination. "What will they do to you?" she asked softly. Elias hesitated. "They are not gentle. The elders do not forgive easily. But I have to hope that truth will matter." They began walking, carefully navigating the rocky slopes and narrow paths of the valley. The terrain was harsh, but Elias had learned to read it, following patterns in the rock that hinted at safer passages. Lyra kept close, her small hand occasionally brushing his arm as she leaned on him for support. She was still weak, but her spirit seemed unbroken, and Elias found himself inspired by her resilience. Hours later, they reached a plateau that overlooked the sprawling plains of Velera. From there, Elias could see the strange energy pulses that marked the presence of the elders' ships far in the distance. They hovered in silent formation, massive and ancient, their surfaces reflecting the sunlight like mirrors. Even from here, the air seemed to vibrate with their power. "They are coming," Lyra whispered, clutching his arm. Elias nodded. "We need a plan. We cannot outrun them for long, but maybe we can hide until they leave, or find a way to explain ourselves before it is too late." As they moved down the plateau, Lyra began to explain more about her world. "The elders do not punish lightly. They watch everything. Every action, every choice, Every thought is measured against the creed. It has been this way for longer than anyone remembers. Breaking a law like the one you broke, it is unthinkable. Elias listened carefully, absorbing every detail. And yet you survived. Why? He asked. She looked at him, eyes serious. Because you helped me. You did what no one else would. The elders respect courage and truth, even if it comes from outside their laws. They will judge, but they also notice. Elias felt a spark of hope. If the elders could see the truth of his actions, perhaps there was a chance to avoid complete disaster. But he knew it would not be easy. As they traveled, they encountered other signs of Valera's ancient civilization. Abandoned structures, glowing with faint energy, and devices whose purposes were unknown. Lyra explained that these were remnants of a time when the elders had walked among the people, guiding them directly. Now their presence was distant, felt only through the creed and the pulses of their ships. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled. Elias froze, scanning the valley. In the distance, a massive figure emerged. Not a ship, but a towering construct of metal and crystal, moving with deliberate steps across the plains. The construct's purpose was unclear, but its sheer size and energy signature made Elias realize it was a guardian, designed to enforce the elders' will on anyone who violated the law. "They are sending a guardian," Lyra said, her voice tense, "to find you, to judge you before the elders arrive themselves." Elias's mind raced. There was no way to outrun such a being. They had to hide, or perhaps find a way to communicate with it. He scanned the terrain and spotted a narrow canyon to their right, partially concealed by large rock formations. "This way," he said, grabbing Lyra's hand. They ran as fast as they could, the ground shaking with each step of the guardian behind them. Elias could feel the energy it emitted, a pressure that made the hair on his arms stand on end. They ducked into the canyon, and Elias activated a small camouflage device from his pack. It created a subtle distortion in the air, making them harder to detect. The guardian passed, its massive form moving slowly but deliberately, scanning every crevice. Elias held his breath, counting the seconds. Finally it moved on, and the valley fell silent once more. "You saved us again," Lyra whispered, relief flooding her voice. Elias shook his head. "We only survived for now. They will not stop coming. We have to be smarter and faster. We need allies, information, anything that can help us survive." Lyra nodded. "There are others," she said. "Clans that do not follow the elders blindly. They hide even from the creed. They may help us if we can reach them." Elias considered her words. Trust was a dangerous thing in this galaxy, especially when the elders' influence was so strong. But he also knew that to survive, they had no choice but to reach out. As they continued, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the valley. The colors of Valera's landscape shifted, deep blues and purples blending with the faint glow of ancient crystal formations. It was beautiful, and yet the danger was constant. Elias could not allow himself to forget that. They found a small outcrop to rest for the night. Elias set up a temporary shield to block wind and light, giving them a safe place to sleep. Lyra leaned against him, exhausted from the day's journey. Elias watched the stars emerge, two suns fading from the sky as darkness fell. He thought of the humans back on Earth, of the life he had left behind, and wondered what they would think if they knew he had broken a law older than the galaxy itself to save a single life. Yet despite the risk, he felt no regret. Saving someone who could not save herself was the only choice he could make. In the middle of the night, Elias was awakened by a soft glow outside their shelter. He peered through the shield and saw movement, small, sleek shapes moving across the valley floor. They were humanoid, but their features were alien, with elongated limbs and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark. Lyra gasped softly. "They are friendly," she whispered. "Clans that hide from the elders. They sense our presence. They know we are not enemies." Elias stepped carefully outside, hands raised to show he meant no harm. The beings approached, their movements cautious but not threatening. One of them, taller than the rest, spoke in a language Elias did not understand. Lyra translated softly. "They ask why we are here. They want to know our story before deciding if we can trust you." Elias nodded and began to explain, keeping his voice calm but steady. He told them about the storm, the canyon, the danger Lyra faced, and the choice he made to save her despite the law. The clan listened silently, their expressions unreadable. When he finished, there was a long pause. Finally, the tall figure spoke again. Lyra translated, her voice trembling slightly. "They say, you have courage. You value life above all else. That is rare, even among their own people. They will help you, but you must understand, the elders will not stop. They will come. You must be ready to face them, or you will never survive." Elias nodded, determination hardening his resolve. "We will be ready. We have no choice." Over the next several days, Elias and Lyra traveled with the hidden clan, learning their ways and understanding more about Valeera's complex society. The clan taught them how to navigate the planet's dangerous terrain, how to read the energy signals that marked elders' presence, and how to anticipate threats before they arrived. Elias found himself growing stronger, not just physically, but in spirit. The humans he had met in his life had often spoken of courage and honor, but here, in this alien world, he was living it every day. Saving Lyra had been the first step, but now he realized survival and understanding required far more than bravery. It required wisdom, patience, and trust. Lyra, too, changed. She gained confidence with each passing day, learning from the humans and the hidden clan. She began to see that life was more than the rigid rights of her people, that there was more to the galaxy than obedience and fear. And in Elias, she saw an example of what it meant to be truly brave, not reckless, but willing to do what was right even when the cost was unknown. Yet despite their progress, Elias could not forget the looming threat. The elders were still out there, and the pulses of energy that marked their presence were growing stronger. He knew that it would not be long before they arrived, and when they did, there would be no hiding. He looked at Lyra one evening as they rested in a hidden valley, the stars bright above them. "We have learned a lot," he said quietly, "but the real test is coming. We will have to face the elders soon, and we cannot fail." Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "We will not fail," she said. "We have each other, and we have your courage. That is more than many have." Elias smiled faintly. He knew she was right. They had survived storms, guardians, and uncertainty. They had found allies where there seemed to be none. And above all, they had chosen life over law, compassion over fear. In the quiet of the valley, as the twin moons rose and cast their light across the land, Elias felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. The galaxy might fear humans, fear their ways, fear their refusal to obey ancient rules. But he knew this. Humans could change worlds, not through force, but through courage and the simple act of choosing what is right. And soon, the elders would see that choice for themselves. The distant hum of the elders' ships grew louder as Elias and Lyra traveled with the hidden clan. The sky above Valeera shimmered with faint pulses of energy, signals of power so immense that even the clan moved cautiously beneath them. Elias could feel the weight of it pressing on him, not physically, but mentally, like the entire world was holding its breath. "This is it," Lyra whispered, her hand gripping his arm. "They are coming to judge you." Elias nodded, his jaw tight. He had trained for many dangers in his life, from storm navigation to alien survival, but nothing had prepared him for this. The elders were not just rulers, they were ancient beings, embodiments of the law itself, and now the law had its gaze fixed on him. The hidden clan led them to a natural amphitheater carved into the mountains, a place used long ago for gatherings and judgments. The walls glowed faintly with energy lines, pulsing in rhythm with the approaching elders' ships. The clan's elders explained that this would be the site of the initial encounter, a place where humans and aliens alike could be assessed before the formal judgment. Elias surveyed the amphitheater. The ground was uneven, dotted with ancient crystals that reflected the sunlight, casting patterns of light across the valley. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes wide but determined. "They will not forgive easily," she said, "but perhaps they will see the truth." Elias exhaled slowly. Truth. That was all he had to offer. The choice he had made to save Lyra was simple in his mind. Life mattered more than law. But how would beings who had never faced such uncertainty respond? Hours later, the first of the elders' ships descended, massive and imposing, their surfaces reflecting light in patterns that made the valley glow like a crystalline ocean. The air itself seemed to vibrate, charged with a strange energy that made Elias's muscles tense. Lyra squeezed his hand. From the largest ship, a figure emerged. It was taller than any human or alien he had seen, robed in a fabric that shimmered with shifting light. Its face was hidden beneath a mask that seemed alive, moving as though it breathed. This was one of the elders, and its presence alone commanded absolute silence. "You have broken the law," the elder said, its voice resonating in Elias's mind more than through the air. "You have interfered in the right of the Velaran child. You have violated Law 7 of the Elder Creed. Explain yourself." Elias stepped forward, his heart pounding. Every instinct screamed for caution, but he could not back down. "I did not act out of malice or disrespect," he said clearly. "I saved her life. She was trapped, unable to escape, and I could not leave her to die. That is why I intervened." The elder remained silent for a moment, tilting its head as if examining Elias's very soul. Then it spoke again, the voice now softer but no less powerful. "You acted outside the law. The creed exists to maintain balance and order. Your actions have consequences." "I understand," Elias replied. "But I also understand that life is more important than rules. Laws are made by beings, not by the universe. Saving a life is always the right choice." Lyra stepped forward, her voice shaking but firm. "He is right. The right I was part of. It was corrupted. I was not meant to die. Someone manipulated the law to serve their own purpose. Elias saved me, not to break a law, but to protect life." The elder's head tilted slightly. "Evidence?" it asked. Lyra reached into a small pouch and produced a crystalline device, showing recordings of the events leading to her captivity. The holographic images displayed clearly how the right had been tampered with, how she had been placed in mortal danger unnecessarily. The elder observed in silence, absorbing every detail. After a long pause, it spoke again. "You speak truth, yet the law has been broken. Others will see this as a threat." "Do you understand the gravity of your actions?" "I do," Elias said, "and I accept the consequences. But I also ask you to see the reason behind my actions. Justice is not only about obeying rules. It is about protecting the innocent." The elder regarded him for a long time, then motioned toward the hidden clan. "Witnesses?" The clan stepped forward, their elders nodding in affirmation. "He acted with courage," one said. "He honored life, Not only human life, but the life of one of our own. That is rare, even among our people. Another elder added, "We have hidden from the creed for centuries, yet we see the purity of his intent. That purity cannot be denied." The elder remained silent for a moment, then lowered its head slightly. Elias sensed a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle acknowledgement of the argument. The energy lines in the amphitheater pulsed faster, and for a moment, Elias felt the weight of judgment ease. "Curious," the elder said finally. "Humans, your species values life above law. That is an anomaly in the galaxy. One who follows instinct and compassion rather than decree. Fascinating." Elias allowed himself a small nod. "We have learned that compassion is a strength, not a weakness." The elder's voice grew distant, as if speaking to unseen observers. "Let it be known, the human's actions, while a violation, are also a reflection of a quality unseen in many. They acted with truth, with courage, and with regard for life." Lyra's eyes widened. "Does that mean—" The elder raised a hand, a gesture that seemed to ripple through the amphitheater itself. "Judgment will be delayed. The situation must be studied further. But know this, breaking the law for the sake of life may hold value. The creed may evolve because of this act." Elias could scarcely believe it. He had expected condemnation, punishment, perhaps even exile or worse. But instead, the elders were considering him, considering the idea that a law could be tempered by morality. Yet he knew the danger was not over. The elders were deliberate. Their judgment was only the beginning. "We have bought time," he said quietly to Lyra, "but we must not be careless." Lyra nodded. "I understand, but for the first time, I feel hope." In the days that followed, the hidden clan worked closely with Elias and Lyra. They shared knowledge about ancient technologies, safe paths, and ways to anticipate the movements of the elders. Elias marveled at the complexity of Valera, at the care with which life and law had been intertwined for thousands of years. One evening, as twin moons rose above the valley, Elias sat with Lyra, reviewing their plans. "We may be here for a while," he said. "The elders will study this, deliberate, and eventually decide our fate. But in the meantime, we can learn, prepare, and ensure that no harm comes to you." Lyra leaned against him, her hand brushing his. "Do you ever fear that the elders will see this as defiance, that we might not survive?" Elias considered this. "Yes, I fear it. But fear is part of living. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to act despite it. That is why we are here, and why we have survived this far." She smiled faintly. "I see that now. You have taught me more than I could have imagined. That courage and the choice to protect life, it can change everything." Days turned into weeks. Word of Elias's actions spread among the hidden clans, whispers traveling faster than light through channels the elders could not control. Many began to admire the human, the one who dared to defy an ancient law for the sake of life. Some feared him, others respected him, but all understood that something remarkable had occurred. Elias felt the weight of that realization. Humans were not just newcomers in this galaxy. They were a species capable of inspiring change, capable of shifting centuries-old traditions with acts of courage and morality. Finally, the elders' presence became more direct. A delegation arrived at the amphitheater not to punish, but to observe. They asked questions, tested the evidence, and examined the circumstances of the rite and its corruption. Elias answered each question honestly, never hiding his intent or the reasoning behind his choice. After hours of deliberation, the chief elder, the same figure who had first spoken to him, addressed the gathering. "The law exists to protect balance," it said. Yet it is clear that balance has been compromised not by the human, but by those who manipulated the right. The act of saving life, while technically a violation, was necessary and just. A murmur ran through the hidden clan. Lyra's eyes filled with tears of relief. Elias exhaled slowly, a weight lifting from his chest. The elder continued, "Let this be recorded. A law, though ancient and sacred, must be tempered with wisdom. Life holds value beyond decree. Courage and morality are forces that can guide the galaxy, even among the oldest traditions." Elias realized then that humanity's example, the choice to act with compassion and courage, had left a mark on this alien world. He had broken a law, yes, but in doing so he had shown the elders that even the most rigid system could evolve when faced with truth. As the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the valley, Lyra smiled at him. "You have changed everything," she whispered. Elias nodded quietly. "We have changed everything," he said, "not just me, but all of us. And now the real challenge begins, to protect this change and to ensure that life is always valued above fear." The elders observed silently, their presence still immense, yet there was a shift. Something new had entered the galaxy, a spark of hope, a reminder that even in the face of ancient law, courage, truth, and the choice to protect life could inspire a new path forward. And Elias Ward, the human who had risked everything for one small life, knew that his journey was only beginning. The weeks that followed were tense, but the atmosphere was different from what Elias had expected. The elders did not punish him. Instead, they observed, learned, and deliberated. The hidden clan guided him and Lyra through the valley, teaching them how to navigate Valera safely, but the humans could feel the growing attention of the galaxy. Word of Elias's actions spread among nearby worlds. Some were shocked that a human had dared to defy a law older than memory. Others quietly admired his courage. Elias understood that his choices had consequences far beyond the canyon where he had saved Lyra. The galaxy was watching. Everything they did now could shape the future of countless species. He had acted for one life, but the ripple of that action reached further than he could imagine. One morning, as the twin suns rose and bathed the valley in soft light, Lyra approached Elias, her face thoughtful. "The elders have been speaking among themselves," she said. "They say that humans may offer a new way to think about life and law. They are considering a change to the creed because of you." Elias frowned. "A change? That seems dangerous. Traditions that old are not easily altered." She nodded. "I know, but they are listening now. They see that your choice was not reckless. It was made with honesty and courage. That matters to them more than you think." Elias felt a small swell of hope. Saving Lyra had been an instinct, a decision made in a moment of crisis. Yet now, that instinct was shaping the laws of an entire civilization. It was humbling and terrifying at the same time. As they prepared for the day, an elder arrived to meet them in person. It was the same figure who had first judged him, but now there was a change in its demeanor. The shimmer of its robe seemed gentler, the movements less rigid. It observed Elias closely and then spoke. "You have shown us something remarkable," the elder said. "Your actions have demonstrated that courage, compassion, and the protection of life may be more important than strict adherence to law. The creed, though ancient, can evolve. We must record this moment. We must remember what it means to choose life over fear." Elias nodded slowly. "I only did what I felt was right. I did not think it would reach this far." The elder inclined its head. "Often, the simplest actions carry the greatest weight. You have changed the way we think. That is a rare gift, even among the oldest beings." For the first time, Elias felt a quiet pride. Humans had long been seen as weak, inexperienced, or even reckless in the eyes of the galaxy. But here, in the presence of beings older than memory, his choices were being honored, not dismissed. In the days that followed, the elders worked to formalize the changes inspired by Elias's actions. Lyra guided him through the discussions, translating alien terms and customs. Together, they helped frame the idea that saving life, even when it broke ancient law, could be justified. Other clans, hidden and wary of the elders, began to gather as word spread. They brought their own experiences, stories of lives saved despite law and tradition. Slowly, a dialogue formed. Humans were included, not as outsiders, but as examples of courage and moral reasoning. Elias marveled at how one simple act, saving Lyra, had sparked a conversation that could reshape centuries of tradition. One afternoon, Lyra turned to him, her eyes wide with wonder. "They are going to announce it," she said. "The elders have decided that the creed will include a new law, a law that honors life above all else." Elias raised an eyebrow. "A law? After everything?" She nodded. "Yes. It will be called the human clause. It says that life may be saved by any being when the innocent stands alone, even if it means breaking the old laws." Elias felt his chest tighten. A law inspired by one human meant to protect anyone in danger, regardless of species. It was beyond anything he had ever imagined. The day of the announcement arrived. The amphitheater was filled with beings from across the galaxy, hidden clans, aliens, and representatives of countless civilizations. The elders descended from their ships, radiating authority and wisdom. Every eye turned toward the humans, the witnesses of history in the making. The chief elder raised its hand, and the crowd fell silent. "For millennia, the creed has guided our people," it said, its voice echoing through the valley. "It has maintained balance, order, and stability. Yet balance is meaningless if life itself is not honored. One human has reminded us that courage and compassion may outweigh the strictest laws. Therefore, we decree a new principle, to guide all beings who value life above fear." It paused, and Elias felt every creature in the amphitheater holding its breath. "This principle shall be known as the human clause. Life may be saved by any hand when the innocent stands alone. Let this serve as a reminder that courage and morality are as essential as law, and that no rule is greater than the protection of life." The announcement was met with a mixture of awe, applause, and quiet contemplation. The hidden clans cheered, and Lyra's face shone with pride. Elias felt a warmth in his chest, a deep satisfaction that went beyond pride. He had risked everything for one life, and that choice had created something lasting for countless others. After the formal ceremony, Elias and Lyra walked through the valley. The twin moons were rising, casting silver light across the landscape. "It feels strange," Lyra said softly. "One human's choice has changed the laws of the galaxy." Elias smiled faintly. "It was not just me. You guided me, the clans supported us, and the truth of the situation could not be ignored. But yes, humans have made a mark here. Perhaps this is only the beginning." Lyra looked at him with admiration. "I think the galaxy will remember you, Elias. They will remember what it means to protect life, to act with courage, even when laws say otherwise." Elias shook his head. "I do not seek fame. I only did what anyone would have done." She smiled. "Not anyone. Humans have a gift. You inspire change without even trying. That is something rare in the universe." As the night deepened, Elias reflected on everything that had happened. From the canyon where he had first saved Lyra, through the storms, the guardians, the hidden clans, and the judgment of the elders, he realized that courage was not about fighting, nor was morality about grand speeches. It was about choices, small decisions in critical moments that could ripple across time and space. The elders remained in the valley for several days, studying and recording the events. Elias and Lyra assisted them, showing how truth and compassion could guide actions even when laws seemed absolute. Slowly, the galaxy began to see humans differently. They were not just observers or invaders, they were beings capable of inspiring change, capable of teaching lessons that even the oldest civilizations could learn from. One evening, Lyra and Elias sat atop a high cliff overlooking the valley. The lights from the amphitheater below glimmered like stars, while the energy lines in the rocks pulsed faintly. "Do you think it will last?" Elias asked. Lyra considered this. It must. The human clause is not just a law, it is an idea. Ideas cannot be destroyed. Life will always be honored now, because someone dared to act. Elias nodded slowly. Then maybe humans have a place in this galaxy after all. Not just as travelers, but as teachers, as examples of courage and morality. The next morning, the elders prepared to leave. They had recorded everything, codified the new law, and ensured that the message of compassion would reach all corners of the galaxy. Elias and Lyra accompanied them to the ships, where representatives from multiple species gathered to witness the departure. As the elders ascended, their massive forms glowing against the light of the twin suns, the chief elder spoke one final time. "Let it be known that courage, compassion, and the protection of life may guide even the oldest of laws. Let humanity's example remind all beings that choices matter, and that even one life saved can change the course of history." Elias watched as the ships disappeared into the sky, their presence fading but their influence permanent. Lyra turned to him, a soft smile on her face. "You have done more than save me," she said. "You have given the galaxy a gift that no one can take away." Elias shook his head, feeling a sense of peace. "No, we did it together. Every life we protect, every choice we make, matters. And that is how change happens." For the first time in months, he allowed himself to relax. The storms had passed, the elders had departed, and the galaxy was quietly transforming because of a single act of courage. He knew the journey was far from over. There would be challenges, dangers, and difficult choices ahead. But he also knew that humanity had the power to inspire, to protect, and to shape the future in ways no one had imagined. As Elias and Lyra walked through the valley one last time, before departing with the hidden clan, he looked at the twin suns rising in the sky. They reflected in Lyra's eyes, bright and hopeful, and he understood that life, courage, and morality would always shine brighter than the strictest law. And so, one human's choice had reshaped the galaxy, not with force or conquest, but with compassion, courage, and the unwavering belief that life is worth saving, no matter the cost.